Okay, seems it's recording. Hello everyone. Bom dia, buenos dias. Sorry, I cannot do it in Nepalese. I'm Brice. I'm heading Transparency International's work on climate and environmental issues. I'm delighted to be here today with such a great panel. And today, this session aims at addressing a topic that is not as present, I would say, or not as visible in COP and other climate fora, and that is the one related to corruption risks and environmental crimes. But also the positive side of the coin, so to speak, which is the kind of transformative potential of integrity in climate action. I would like here to thank the organizers of the whole day and also my colleagues who are present here, Anoukh from TI, but also Andrés from Costa Rica Integra, who couldn't be here with us and help us putting this session together. We have about an hour together. Sorry for starting a bit late. And I will soon give the floor to our speakers here on the panel. We will start with, on my right side, Manish Pandey, who is the head of the Department of Climate Change and Knowledge Management of the National Trust for Nature Conservation in Nepal. Then we'll move to my colleague on my left, Magaly Ávila, who is the director of the environmental governance program of Proética in Peru. After that, we'll hear two short video messages from colleagues from Dominican Republic, Rosa Almonte, and a colleague from Costa Rica, Andrés Araya Montezuma. And then last but not least, we'll hear from Judge Rafaela Santos Rosa, who is a federal judge in Brazil and a visiting researcher at Berkeley. So we will try to keep also some time at the end for comments from you and questions if you have. I just wanted to mention briefly that environmental crime is very lucrative and considered basically the best business at the moment, I would say. So it's quite low risk and high reward. So if you don't know what to do in your career, maybe consider that. And Interpol points to corruption as the most important enabling factor behind illegal wildlife and timber trade. Environmental crime is valued around 300 billion per year. Most of it, or half of it, from forest, hence also a bit of a focus today around forest and especially Latin America and Central America. What I wanted to say briefly is also that corruption goes beyond environmental crime. There are different entry points, so to speak, for corruption along the chain. So corruption can act as a facilitator and driver of environmental crime that basically counteracts or destroys climate efforts. And I think we had a good case with Brazil in the past years, unfortunately. But corruption also sometimes causes environmental harm without being or without having an associated environmental offense in a kind of judicial way. And besides that, climate and environmental corruption also delays or diverts climate action or funding, for example, for climate action. And you can think here about undue influence. And maybe some of you saw that today was released some research that showed that more than 2,400 fossil fuel lobbyists are with us today in Dubai and have access to the Blue Zone, to the negotiations. And I think we can clearly see some of the effects that, you know, those lobbyists and this undue influence that for Transparency International is a form of corruption, has on ambition and a way to succeed or not in the fight against climate change. In the end, I will just probably mention a couple of things. We have one of the latest reports with us on land corruption and climate justice and those links. We'll also launch a call for paper on corruption and climate. So I will mention that at the end, but now I would like to turn to the panel and to our first speaker, Manish. So Manish, I wanted to ask you first about those corruption risks and how do you see them related to climate action and specifically also in Nepal and in your work?
Thank you, Brice, for these very important questions, because we know that corruption itself is a very, I think, a negative thing actually. You know? So and when we talk about the environmental crimes and other things, of course, because you know that Nepal, because we are from the LDC's countries, and but of course we are from the LDC's country, but in terms of biodiversity, in terms of nature, we are very rich. But on the other side, when we talk about corruption and environmental crimes, so it is actually interrelated. So I think our efforts actually, particularly if we look at our Nepalese context and what actually we are doing in Nepal actually is that we are dealing with how we can, I think, because that there are so many prohibited practices that prevails, particularly in the LDC's countries. So I think looking at those challenges and issues, I think we should do something from the government side, even because the major or key player is actually the local community or local peoples. They are the key players and actors to stop such kind of negative things. So I think we always try to involve local community, and even looking at our legal framework, even in our policies, we always give focus to involve local communities. I think that could be one of the strategies to deal with, to stop such kind of illegal things. So that is, I think, one of the important aspects. And another thing is that, the most important is that the capacity, that means the capacity of the right from the government, that right from the top up to the bottom. Or I think we always, particularly in Nepal, we always try to involve, as I already mentioned about involving local community, we always, give focus on bottom-up approach. We always involve local people and first, and then through the different processes, I think we always, if you look at our policies or our different plans and other things, I think it's always, the people-centered or participatory efforts. That is very important in our case. And if you look at our Nepalese context, because I think we are quite pioneer in terms of community-based approach. If you look at the community forest in the forestry sector, even in the environment sector, so I think that is very good approach, particularly in our case. And another important thing is that that the most important when we talk about this corruption, I think lack of accountability, that is very important, because we can see everywhere in this part of the world. So I think we should make aware even the people or even government actors and players, because there are so many stakeholders involved in this process. So I think we should make how we can, I think, create such kind of conducive environment for bringing in such kind of accountability in all tiers of the government or even at the local level. That is our efforts, and we always give top priority for that as well. And another important thing that's because whenever we talk about corruption, because right now we are giving priority for the climate finance. If we look at the climate finance landscape, I think there are so many financial instruments right now. But on the other hand, we are dealing with such kind of corruption challenges as well. So I think, particularly for strengthening such kind of financial instrument, I think we need to have, or we need to have very robust policies in place at the at the national level. So I think particularly for that, and we have, if you look at our examples in Nepal, right now we have developed so many policies, we have different plans to deal with those things. But now I think at the present moment, how we can translate policies into actions, that is very important things. So I think we should have, the first thing we should consider is that we should have very implementable policies in place, and then we have to give our priorities or focus to implement, or I think to implement those things, at the local level. So I think only after that we will achieve, to tackle such kind of, issues and challenges actually. So I think from my point of view, I think the most important that if you talk about climate governance or climate finance integrity, I think we should have a very robust mechanism, and we should have a kind of, all kinds of integrity in place, right from the government up to the local level. So I think only after that we will be able to achieve such kind of things.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you. Can I also ask you a bit more about specifically in your institution, if you have some policies that address those questions, and also you're a member yourself of an alliance called the Peer-to-Peer Learning Alliance on Climate Finance Integrity. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about how this works and what has been done in part of this alliance.
Yeah, of course. We have one alliance that is, as you mentioned about that, we have peer-to-peer alliance, that is focused on climate finance integrity. That is supported by an independent integrity unit of the Green Climate Fund, and also with the support of GIZ as well as Transparency International. They are the other, I think, collaborators or partners for strengthening this kind of alliance, and together with other organizations as well, because we started this alliance in 2017, and we have very good network actually. So we always talk about our issues and challenges, and because that network is in fact the network of different direct access entities. We have different direct access from different part of the world. So I think it's very good because actually I'm also one of the founders of that alliance. So because as I mentioned that it started in 2017, and during this process, because we had a very bitter experience about this COVID crisis and other things. So even during that period, we use virtual platform, and it's a kind of our dedication or bringing in such kind of climate related issues across globe. So I think that is very good at all. And for me, but particularly because at that time we were in the process of getting accredited status from the GCL, and through this alliance, because that we already had some entities, they got the accredited status from the GCL, and when we are in the process of revising our own policies. So I think we got very good feedback, comments, or suggestions from other peers. I think it's very good approach for us. Even now, because in the initial phase, we are in the process of revising our own policy or developing our own policies. So after this alliance, I think right now we are implementing some projects at the ground level. So I think now it's turning towards the other focus. Initially we were in the preliminary phase. Right now we are just talking about how we can strengthen our own, how we can stop the prohibited practices, how we can strengthen our own governance, climate governance in our institution. That is our priority right now. So that's why, and we know about the GCF policies as well. In every board, GCF is trying to revise its own policies. We know about the reality. So I think our current efforts, our current plan is how we can align those things with our own policies. That is our priority right now. So ultimately, I think it will help to strengthen the climate finance integrity at the institutional level, even at the regional level, even at the global level. So I think it's ultimately contribute to overall objective of the green climate funds, as well as other climate financial instrument as well. And currently we are also in the process of getting accreditation from Adaptation Fund. We are almost at the final stage of that. And once we get, I think through this alliance, we are just trying to, I think, transfer our knowledges and other things to, and other things as well. And not only peer-to-peer learning alliance, we have another CPTA, Community of Practice of Direct Access Entities. And I think it's a very good, I think, knowledge, very knowledgeable persons right now in this network. And we are contributing from our side to strengthen the climate financing. So that is our, that's what we are doing right now.
Thank you so much, Manish, for those concrete examples as well of how it can translate in the country context, but also the link with the global level and the global funds. I would like now to invite Magaly from Proética to talk to us about the situation in Latin America, but especially in Peru, and what they are doing to combat corruption in environmental crime. And if we can have the slides.
Hello, everyone. I speak in Spanish. Andrea translate in English. Thanks for the invitation. And I start. La corrupción tiene un impacto multidimensional sobre la democracia, el Estado de Derecho y particularmente sobre el goce y el ejercicio de los derechos humanos. Los delitos ambientales articulados a la corrupción generan asesinatos, generan muertes, generan daños ambientales irreparables, pero también generan un debilitamiento en el Estado de Derecho, generan un debilitamiento en la gobernabilidad de las instituciones y también en la confianza de la ciudadanía en sus autoridades y en consecuencia generan estados frágiles. Okay, yeah.
Hello? Okay. Good morning. Corruption has a multi-dimensional impact on democracy, the rule of law, and the exercise and fulfillment of human rights. Environmental crimes linked to corruption lead to murders and irreparable environment damage, as well as weakening institutional governance, rule of law, and citizens' trust in their authorities, resulting in fragile states.
La Amazonía de Perú, pero la Amazonía de la cuenca amazónica, en general de la región de América Latina, está siendo duramente golpeada por los sistemas de corrupción que facilitan que flujos de dinero ilícito provenientes de economías ilegales como tal ilegal, minería ilegal, tráfico de tierras, narcotráfico, puedan operar de manera impune y vulneren los derechos humanos de pueblos indígenas y de pequeños agricultores usuarios del bosque. Nosotros hicimos un estudio desde Proética, que es está en español acá, pero es compromisos climáticos y crímenes ambientales. Y en este estudio hicimos una investigación desde el año 2009 al 2021, en donde se identificaron 24.662 procesos penales por delitos ambientales. Esos son todos los delitos ambientales que hay en el país, de los cuales el 50%, es decir, la mitad de estos delitos corresponden a delitos contra los bosques o las formaciones boscosas. Y en el año 2020, que fue el año de la pandemia, fue el año que marcamos el récord histórico de deforestación en nuestro país. Se deforestaron más de 200.000 hectáreas de bosques amazónicos, justamente porque no habían sistemas de control y de fiscalización como la policía y la fiscalía.
The Amazon is being hard hit by corruption systems that facilitate illicit money flows from illegal economies, which in order to operate systematically and with impunity, violate the human rights of indigenous people and small farmers who use the forests. We have a study on climate compromises and environmental crimes, in which we saw that from 2009 to September 2021, 24,662 environmental crime proceedings were formalized, of which more than 50% correspond to forest or forest formation crimes, illegal timber, product trafficking, and illegal mining. On the year 2020, we had a record figure of 200,000 hectares deforested of the forest Amazon. This is because in the Amazon there's no law and no prosecutors to control this.
Este es un mapa del Perú, como ustedes ven en las zonas más oscuras, colinda con Colombia, con Brasil, con Ecuador, con la parte amazónica, y los delitos ambientales en mayor porcentaje son los delitos fronterizos, son las regiones que están fronterizas con estas regiones donde hay mayor avance de deforestación.
This is a map from Peru. On the dark side, you can see the frontiers with Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, and on these frontiers are the Amazons. Here's where the mostly illegal crimes are happening.
Yo les quiero mostrar un par de fotos. Esta imagen corresponde al representante, al jefe de las fiscalías de una región amazónica, que como ven está siendo capturado porque es la cabeza de una mafia, digamos, quien debería de generar fiscalización y control, termina siendo uno de los actores perversos para brindar, digamos, ilegalidad.
On this image, you can see the chief prosecutor of the region Ucayali, which is an Amazon region, that was prosecuted because of illegal trafficking.
Yeah, it's the same, exactly. And this, y ella es Patricia Benavides, es la jefa de las fiscalías, la jefa del Ministerio Público. Y ella actualmente está investigada por presidir una organización criminal en la Fiscalía Nacional, ¿no? Estamos hablando del órgano máximo de fiscalización en el país. En un estado sano, el sistema de justicia sería el llamado a corregir estas graves anomalías. Pero el crimen organizado ha penetrado de tal manera, ha penetrado tan profundamente al Estado peruano y también a los estados en la región, que jueces, fiscales, abogados interactúan en redes criminales para repartir impunidad a cambio de favores o lucran con sus decisiones, algo que obviamente pudre las entrañas de la justicia nacional.
Okay. In this image, you can see the chief of the ministry, of the public ministry. She was investigated, and she was also the head of illegal networks. Justice systems should be called upon to correct these serious anomalies, but organized crimes have deeply penetrated the Peruvian state. When judges, prosecutors, and lawyers interact within criminal networks to exchange favors for impunity or profit from their decisions, something rots in the bowels of justice.
Sin embargo, no los voy a deprimir, porque también hay buenos funcionarios, ¿no? Los que han investigado a la Fiscalía, a la Fiscal de la Nación, son fiscales anticorrupción que han generado investigación contra esta gran fiscal por lo que ya mencioné anteriormente, y este es un fiscal ambiental, environmental prosecutor, que está trabajando en la Fiscalía Ambiental de una región amazónica en un caso específico sobre tráfico de tierras, en el cual se le despojaron a diferentes pueblos indígenas, pequeños agricultores de sus territorios para vendérselos a un grupo empresarial de agroindustria de palma aceitera. Y básicamente este funcionario, este investigador, este fiscal, investigó a autoridades regionales que habían generado toda esta mafia de tráfico de tierras, ¿no? Obviamente aliados a la corrupción y al sector empresarial.
Okay, here, I don't want to depress you. There are also justice operators on the right side. In spite of being threatened, they manage to enforce the law. There are anti-corruptor prosecutors and environmental prosecutors as well. This is one of the examples of an environmental prosecutor in the Amazon region of Peru. He was investigating land trafficking, and he also had local authorities involved in their networks of these illegal networks, and some of them got imprisoned.
Logró que capturaran a funcionarios públicos de alto nivel y que estén actualmente en la cárcel. Este fiscal fue perseguido, amenazado de muerte y amenazado en diferentes formas. Nosotros desde Proética logramos que al fiscal lo trasladen a Lima, a él y a su caso, y actualmente este caso está en la Fiscalía de Crimen Organizado en Lima, siendo investigado desde ahí.
This prosecutor arrested some actors for falsifying documents. He had a lot of death threats in the region. That's why we, for Proética, helped him to move to Lima and from there prosecute this case.
Y ya para terminar, les quiero contar cómo podemos nosotros desde los espacios en los que trabajamos generar buenas prácticas de trabajo para apoyar el tema de justicia ambiental en los países, justicia climática. Hay varias formas, por supuesto. Una de ellas tiene que ver con fortalecer las capacidades de los fiscales en temas relacionados a la lógica ambiental. No solo los fiscales ambientales, hablo de fiscales de crimen organizado, fiscales de lavado de activos, fiscales anticorrupción, porque justamente las mafias que operan relacionadas con recursos naturales no se circunscribe al tema de recursos naturales, ¿no? Va mucho más allá y son delitos mayores que hay que trabajar. Y lo segundo que hacemos es que nosotros hemos apoyado a las fiscalías, a la Procuraduría Ambiental, a digitalizar en esta lógica del Open Data, del Open Government, ¿no? Para que puedan digitalizar todos sus expedientes fiscales y puedan, una vez que tengan esta información, puedan interoperar con otros actores, tanto de instituciones públicas como de instituciones privadas o de sociedad civil.
How to address the challenges that environmental crime and corruption present for climate initiative. One of the things that we have done is strengthen the capacity for prosecutor environmentals, anti-corruption, asset lending, and organized crimes. These people, because they are here and because they need to prosecute all these cases, they need to also to know how the forestal governance is working. This is so important for them. We also helped, we've got also interoperability between platforms. We help to digitize all the archives of the prosecutors so that they have it online and can get to these archives whenever they want to. This helps them to actually go on with their work, even though it was a pandemic.
Desde Proética trabajamos también temas que tienen que ver con Open Data, con gobierno digital, y hemos generado diversas plataformas de investigación a partir de solicitudes de información pública, en la cual nos dan expedientes, nosotros transformamos esta información en una información más amigable, más cercana, en mapas, y entonces la Procuraduría ahora interopera con nosotros para que podamos trabajar de manera cercana estos casos. Son formas de trabajo en las cuales uno tiene que transparentar la información, generar sistemas de control pública y accountability también. Muchas gracias.
Okay, we also use algorithm and data analysis to highlight corruption. We have algorithms that facilitate and analyze that data that exposes the criminal network behind illegal logging and its illicit transport. We have these platforms because first of all, we request information to the state. This data can interoperate, and we can see also the people interacting in the illegal network. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Magaly, and thanks for for those concrete and real cases, but also to leave us with hope, even if that we can see very clearly also the kind of human impacts and on human rights, violences, and also trust, which is also a key topic, I think, at climate negotiations internationally as well. I would like now to show you two short videos from our colleagues Rosa Almonte from Dominican Republic and Andrés Araya Montezuma de Costa Rica. If we can have the videos up.
El programa de gobernanza sobre cambio climático en Costa Rica. El programa de gobernanza sobre cambio climático en Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sí. Parece que tienes que dar acá.
Not sure I have them here. I don't know if they are there. Did you put them on the...
El programa de gobernanza sobre cambio climático en Costa Rica ha trabajado el tema de la gobernanza climática durante los últimos años, incidiendo en la política climática desde la sociedad civil en distintos espacios de trabajo conjunto con la academia, con las empresas privadas y con las organizaciones de sociedad civil, y también con el gobierno. Costa Rica es el segundo país de América Latina, después de México, que recibe más internacional. Y esta es la razón más importante para las organizaciones de sociedad civil puedan ejercer el control sobre las finanzas climáticas. Por ello, el programa se concentró en 3 acciones de mucho impacto, muy concretas de control desde la sociedad civil. En primer lugar, hicimos investigación e informes para transparentar y rendir cuentas o hacer rendir cuentas a la institucionalidad en materia de financiamiento climático. En segundo lugar, creamos el Foro de Gobernanza y Derechos Climáticos para incidir en las políticas públicas sobre ambiente y cambio climático. Y este foro está conformado por 18 diversas organizaciones de sociedad civil. En tercer lugar, incorporamos el tema del cambio climático en los planes de acción de OGP y también, en cuarto y último lugar, apoyamos a otras organizaciones de sociedad civil, como por ejemplo el Consejo Consultivo Ciudadano de Cambio Climático, dándoles o brindándoles asistencia técnica para apoyar su crecimiento como organización de sociedad civil. Esto, como lecciones, digamos, aprendidas durante todo este periodo, podemos señalar, número 1, la inclusión de la sociedad civil en cualquier espacio genera valor público. En segundo lugar, la inclusión real y participativa de las comunidades en la toma de decisiones genera legitimidad en las acciones gubernamentales. Como tercera lección aprendida fue que la participación de la sociedad civil aumenta la aceptación pública y mejora la conciencia pública sobre las acciones de cambio climático. Algunos de los retos que tenemos por delante son los siguientes. En primer lugar, incidir en la legislación nacional para mejorar las normativas de veedurías ciudadanas en materia ambiental y climática. El segundo reto a futuro es exigir que se mejore el sistema de registro de información de datos abiertos sobre cambio climático, especialmente lo que tiene que ver con las finanzas climáticas, para que sean mucho más abiertas y en el tiempo real en todas las instituciones. Y finalmente, contribuir a mejorar la coordinación institucional y las capacidades de los funcionarios públicos y de los miembros de la sociedad civil para dar seguimiento a la implementación e impacto de los proyectos de cambio climático.
El programa de gobernanza e integridad financiera climática en la República Dominicana está siendo ejecutado por participación ciudadana. Es liderado a nivel internacional por Transparencia Internacional y financiado por la organización no gubernamental Waverly Street Foundation de los Estados Unidos. Este programa pretende alcanzar resultados positivos en los registros y la información adecuada sobre financiamiento climático y delitos ambientales, así como también fortalecer al Estado dominicano en la transparencia y rendición de cuentas a toda la ciudadanía. Para el logro de estos resultados, Participación Ciudadana quiere dar a conocer la estrecha relación que existe entre delitos ambientales y la respuesta sobre cambio climático. Para ello, está realizando varios estudios, denuncias sobre delitos ambientales que realizan los ciudadanos dominicanos a los organismos competentes, el flujo del financiamiento climático que llega a la República Dominicana, así como también la inclusión de género y comunidades o grupos vulnerables en el financiamiento climático. Un dato importante que nos llama la atención es que más del 90% de los casos de delitos ambientales que se denuncian en el país provienen de fuentes acústicas. Sin embargo, los estudios de gases de efecto invernadero nos revelan que también existen otras fuentes de contaminaciones. Esto nos lleva a pensar, ¿por qué no se están denunciando los demás casos de delitos ambientales? Para lograr verdaderos resultados y casos de éxitos en las iniciativas climáticas, es importante la mirada de participación ciudadana como movimiento cívico no partidista y de toda la ciudadanía en general. Es preciso identificar la causa, analizarla y sanearla, para así poder implementar acciones climáticas sostenibles y no seguir jugando el juego de crear el problema y luego tener que crear la solución. Por lo tanto, la pregunta es, ¿estamos realmente preparados para cumplir con la meta que la República Dominicana se planteó ante el Acuerdo París y las contribuciones nacionales determinadas?
Thanks so much to the two colleagues, and I think they might even be virtually with us online because we have also online participants. So if you're here, thanks to you again for your messages, and it sounds like there are a lot in common, unfortunately, within the different countries in these topics. I would like to pass the word now to Judge Rafaela to hear a bit more about what's going on in Brazil and what you've seen in the courts.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here and also an honor to judicial power in Brazil have some space to talk about. And from my colleague from Peru. We have the same issues, the same problems. As we are listening to you and you say, in the pandemic year, emissions in Peru increase. Also in Brazil, we broken a record, 10% emissions increase in 2020 because no field fiscalization or policy. But on my talk, I want to emphasize what the Brazilian judiciary is doing to contribute to climate litigation, corruption litigation against environmental crimes. And I choose one specific resolution made by the Brazilian National Council of Justice and to talk about, because these resolutions is actually a milestone in climate change law in Brazil. Yeah, so first of all, it's first information. The National Council of Justice in Brazil is provided by the federal constitution. And this council is chaired by the president of Supreme Court and has 15 members, judges, lawyers, prosecutors, and members of the legal academy. This council is the highest administrative body of the judiciary in Brazil. And one important information, this council edits recommendations and resolutions. And these recommendations and resolutions must be observed by all judges, federal, state judges in Brazil. So this resolution is like law for us. Such an example, we have a recommendation 1, 2, 3 by the National Council, free, prior, and informed consultation. It must be respected. So all judges in their decisions must be aware of this. And this resolution that I will address, it's very important. It's 433 resolution, is made in 2021. And I guess it's a milestone because it's established the environmental policy of the Brazilian judiciary. And for the first time, the topic of climate change was expressly mentioned in this resolution. And in 3 articles in directly way. In my time, I only could be explored 2 of them. But for example, all judges must respect the 169 ILO Convention. And also climate litigation is introduced, was a procedure introduced specifically in environmental law. I will focus on these 2 central aspects because I guess improve the effectiveness of environmental cases, both civil or climate cases. The use of satellite images to identify environmental damage, such as deforestation, fires, or fishing, and this contribution to climate litigation. And also this article, the 14th article, they established for the first time in Brazilian law that all judges, Brazilian judges, when in their convictions in civil cases or crime environmental cases, must address the impact of this damage of this conduct, such as, for example, one deforestation, one case on global climate change, expressly recognize this. And we are in the walking the path to express recognition of climate damage in Brazilian judiciary. And well, first, this Article 11 in this resolution is an expression authorization for the use of satellite images in decisions on environmentals. It say the judges can consider the evidence produced exclusively by remote sensing to like evidence collection on environmental lawsuits, because the Amazon region, the beyond Amazon in Brazil, it's like it's big, and so it's large, and we have areas it's difficult to access in the field, and we have many structures difficult to field expansion and is precarious. So the goals of this article, well, we can seize deforestation, we can seize burning activities, predatory fishing, well, that are in progress, when we can also use ER predictions to avoid the consummation of new forests, to cross with like land information about this land belongs to, it's a public land, it's a private land, and also to repair damage already done. But this article was introduced in 2021, and what's happened? I want to mention the National Council of Justice was provided by 2 studies. One of them, one of the authors is here, and I didn't know that, but thank you, Brenda, for this. One study, it's conducted by Amazon, it's a civil organization, and address the answer, well, are courts in Brazil punishing illegal deforestation in the Amazon region? And this study show us no, unfortunately, no in an effective way. And what is the problem? The main problem, judges still not use satellite images that indicate environmental damage. And this is the main finding, one of the main findings. So punishment for illegal deforestation was limited. And most of the judges still reject the reports based only on satellite images. Another research is paid by this commission by the National Council of Judges, but reinforce the data and the same conclusions of the Amazon study. And so what the National Council of Justice do about this? Well, in July this year, the National Council of Judges create an interinstitutional working group. I belong to this interinstitutional working group. This group is made by federal and state judges for all regions in Brazil. We have 2 members, prosecutor members from public minister. We have a public advocacy. We have the Council of Brazilian Bar Association. We are a total of 15 members. This is a public hearing that we, in this group, made. This composition, interinstitutional, it's very, very important because we can achieve like a consensus among all institutions who operates in the judicial system in the Brazilian, and so avoiding conflicts. And what we do until now, our first delivery made by this working group is delivered in September this year, September 2023. We made a protocol for judges to how use satellite images. We explain basic concepts like spatial resolution, temporal resolution. We summarize and explain all satellite images that are already in use in Brazil. Public ones, private ones, no matter. This is our example. And we explain the difference, but we reinforce that they are reliable, their reliability, that you can use the technical precision, such as the federal policy in Brazil now is using the PlanetScope, the same satellite image that NASA use, and also we comply the jurisprudence consolidated in Brazil highest court to endorse the use of satellite images. And the National Council of Justice just made a recommendation. So recommendation, you must comply, all judges must comply. This is the recommendation 145. It's this year, is the last decision of the Supreme Court President Rosa is the last resolution of them, is made in September. And we turn mandatory for school judges, incorporate this STEM in remote sensing image in all courses. And I just finished in September, I was the scientific coordination of this course. The federal court where I work hold the first course on climate change law, a 3-day course, 16 hours, EPCC scientists, science attributions. We have a great course. And in the program, to comply with this protocol, we also to serve as a model, we had a class about the use of satellite images to identify deforestation thing. And the entire course is available and it's translated to English, to Spanish in the YouTube channel of this school. And now at this moment, I believe we are working on some other article of this resolution, and maybe more important, it's the Article 14. This article recognize when judges in Brazil, when sentence environmental damage, so environmental crime or environmental civil actions, even it's like a class action, no matter what. The judges must consider among other parameters, the impact of this damage on global climate change. It's the express recognition that every deforestation has some impact in climate system, emissions, skins, but this working group, how we can make the protocol about this to judges can use this article is like a recognition of climate damage in Brazil. So last year we made a public consultation about this, and we open and public consultation. Everybody can send to the National Council of Justice contributions about this. And this year we made a public hearing. This is one indigenous leadership that we listened this day. We started this public hearing like 9 in the morning, and all day long we listen everybody who wants to contribute, like a public participation. And now this working group just delivered to the president of the Supreme Court, the actual president, a second protocol on guidelines for judges when sentencing environmental cases such as deforestation, how to measure, how to put economic value in greenhouse emissions and sink losses. And I am hopeful that this, the approval of this the second scope and this protocol probably will contribute to ensure the accountability of environmental offenders. And I hope this is possible to be approval this year. And so, thank you. Any questions and suggestions? I give my email.
Thank you so much, and yeah, congratulations for the steps taken in the right direction. It seems for fighting environmental crimes, but also, as you just said, improving accountability. That seems to be much needed in Brazil, but in many other places, unfortunately. I think we can still hopefully take a few minutes to hear your thoughts or your comments or your questions to any of our panelists. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has, yeah, maybe I think there's can we use the microphone here or, yeah. So the gentleman here had the question. Maybe you can just briefly introduce yourself and ask your question or say your comment. I don't think it works.
It was too technical for me.
It's too technical
I'm
for
Nigel
everyone.
Fleming. I'm representing the British Institute of International and Comparative Law, who are working on climate change litigation, trying to produce a report for publication next year. My question is for the last speaker. Really interesting, all of the speeches. Thank you very much. But it's the proposed or now enforced Article 14, which refers to sentencing, which I associate with criminal process. Is there an equivalent, or does the language already cover damages in civil proceedings, which would be punitive? So having assessed the impact of the damage on the local community, can the judge then take into account the damage to global climate change issues and punish the person who is the defendant to the civil proceeding?
Thank you. Maybe I don't know if there is already another question or if we take that one first. Yeah. Maybe just if we can have the microphone to the front and maybe we can get those two questions and then see if we have more time. Yes.
Thank you very much for the presentations. I'm Brenda from Brazil. Maybe a question for Rafaela in Magaly. In August this year, there was a meeting, an Amazon summit in Brazil, in Belém, where I come from and where COP will be in 2 years. And at the same time, there was a summit, I think the first summit from the judicial system in Brazil that also invited judges from other countries to participate. And one of the things they were discussing was the need to increase collaboration across Amazon basin countries. It's also in terms of sharing knowledge, also investigation, decisions. So I wanted maybe to hear from you, what would be perspectives in this sense? Like, for example, the examples that Rafaela brought here today, if you think would be something that the courts in Peru would look and try to implement, or what do you think would be advances in terms of sharing, having more collaborations among courts in the Amazon basin?
Thank you. Maybe you can start, Rafaela, if you can, on the two questions.
Yeah. My colleague make a great question. I have to explain the tort law system in Brazil is kind of different from, because we consider in Brazilian legal system that environmental damage, it's a public damage, it's a public issue. So it's a constitutional level, actually. And this is different from other, it's similar to France. It's the same understanding of environmental damage that we have in France. But this difference in Brazil makes a lot of importance, because we can consider the damage to climate system like a civil damage, like environmental damage to all of us, like a global damage. Actually, my PhD thesis is about this. It's the title is Climate Damage, to explain how this climate damage, it's a planetary scale damage. It's a damage to the climate system as a whole. And this is very much the understanding of damage, environmental damage, that already is in Brazilian courts. So answer to your question, this understanding is useful for civil actions, inclusive like class actions like we call as popular actions. So it's useful both for environmental cases and civil cases. And to answer to Brenda's question, what I started to see is more this approach of judges from Brazil, from Peru, from Colombia, talking to each other and planning courses for the next year. For example, we are planning courses together to teach judges about climate change law. And last week, I know in Peru hold one public minister encounter from Brazil, from Peru, from other countries in South America, and the subject was environmental cases, climate cases. So I really believe this connection, it's growing right now. Yeah.
Thank you, Magaly. Yeah. The second question.
Sí. Nosotros desde Proética planteamos trabajar efectivamente con países de la cuenca amazónica en algo que se llama trazabilidad delictiva, ¿no? Es decir, trabajar toda la trazabilidad delictiva transnacional. Los delitos ambientales no se circunscriben a una nación, ¿no? Los delitos ambientales relacionados a commodities salen desde nuestros países y se transfieren a otros países. Por ejemplo, la madera de Perú se va hasta Colombia, se lava dinero con recibos y con guías de transporte forestal falsas, y de ahí, una vez que ha ingresado, por ejemplo, a Colombia, a Brasil, inclusive a República Dominicana, llega con documentos falsificados, pero que son documentos sobre bases originales, ¿no? Y que luego lo exportan a otros países como Europa, como Estados Unidos, como China. Commodities.
Hello, yeah. Out of Proética, we actually encourage this kind of work. We work with the Amazon bases because there's 3 different countries, Colombia, Brazil, and Ecuador, and Peru, four. Because of the environment, crimes doesn't happen just in one country, it happens in all of them. And also the communities that go out of, for example, from Peru, goes to the other countries with false documents on a regional basis. So when the foreign countries, for example, Germany or UK or other countries want to import these committees, they think that these documents are actually original or right, but they are false documents. So yes, it is very important to have this interaction between all these countries together.
Algo que vamos a trabajar tiene que ver con cómo homologar la normativa. No sé cómo se dice en inglés, pero es trabajar, porque cada país tiene una normativa relacionada a los delitos ambientales. Sin embargo, nuevamente, esta normativa es nacional, ¿no? Y cuando estos delitos traspasan las fronteras, se acaba el delito, ¿no? Entonces termina la frontera de Perú, llega sea minería ilegal o tal ilegal a Brasil, y entonces ahí nuevamente comienza recién el delito, ¿no? Entonces hay que mirar todo lo que tiene que ver con la homologación normativa, por lo menos de la cuenca amazónica, ¿no? Para mirar este tipo de cosas. Y bueno, y finalmente estoy de acuerdo con lo que tú dices, ¿no? Trabajar con espacios transnacionales de actores, ¿no? Con fiscalías, con procuradurías, con sociedad civil articulada que pueda vigilar, ¿no? A la ciudadanía, que pueda vigilar a las autoridades, que pueda generar denuncias, que podamos trabajar casos emblemáticos tanto a nivel nacional como a nivel internacional. Desde Proética, por ejemplo, nosotros los casos que no sean, que vemos que por corrupción pueden caerse, ¿no? Es decir, que pueden disolverse en el país, los hemos sacado fuera del país a hacer litigio estratégico en Estados Unidos, por ejemplo, para que estos casos no se queden en impunidad, ¿no? Que es una de las cosas que hay que mirar fuertemente para temas relacionados a delitos ambientales y crimen organizado transnacional.
We want to work how to get one political norm for all the frontiers. Each country has its own norm. That means that if the crime starts here in Peru, then goes, for example, to Colombia, there starts another norm. There starts again the same case because they don't have the norm. So we're trying to get something homogeneous, something the same on all the countries, to have a good basis. These transnational spaces with actors that vigilate and control this are very important, and they have to work emblematic cases. Also, most of the cases sometimes go down because of corruption. So what we did is that we took those cases and took them to another country, so they prosecuted from another countries, so it doesn't fall down.
You. Maybe we have a couple of more minutes before we wrap up. Is that okay? 2 more minutes. Okay, so let's use the 2 minutes. One hand here. Yeah, if we can have the microphone. Is there any other question? That's the last chance. Okay, we'll take this as the last question then, and then wrap up. if you guys want to say 10, 20 seconds, your last word, that's the chance after we take the question.
Thank you. My name is Kashif. I'm the Executive Director for Transparency Chapter in Pakistan. And thank you everyone for your presentation. My question is to the Honorable Judge. I wanted to understand, so we see a very strong focus on climate accountability in the judiciary, which I think for a country where I come from is very unique, I think, because we are also struggling to find, how to integrate these reforms. So I'm curious to understand how did this evolution started? Was there any, some event that gave it a push?
No, excellent question. It's not a revolution because in Brazil, environmental law, doctrine, legal system, and judicial decisions, in these three ways, we have like a solid environmental law that facilitate now to convert this environmental language to climate change language. We have, for example, our federal constitution since '88 provide a health environment expressly to present and future generations. We don't have to discuss about this because it's there since '88. And so we have like I say, the tort law system to use responsible, such as polluters, direct polluters, and even indirect polluters, like who is financing this. We have already cases against the most important bank in Brazil, the public bank. It's a climate case because this public bank still addressing this public bank don't check the supply chain. And so we have already climate case. So I think Brazil has this advantage because we have a strong environmental law that already exists and judicial courts decisions, many judicial. So last year, for example, the Supreme Court of Brazil in 2 cases was decided. And I believe it's the first time one Supreme Court expressly say the Paris Agreement, it's binding, it's a legal binding, it's legal binding in Brazil, and also say Paris Agreement, it's a human rights treaty, and so we must comply. So it's more easy for judges in Brazil say this because we has like a environmental law history that now we can dismiss, we can say different. So it's.
Thank you so much. Is there any last word from the panelists, or do you want to add something before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think it was a very good discussion actually, because we were talking about the environmental crimes and corruption issues. So the most important thing is that how we can establish those things at the institutional level or even at the country level, because we talk much about from a different perspective, like from the legal or from because we are working in the ground. So I think the most important is that the transparency, that is very important, and how we can engage all different stakeholders, right from civil society. That is very important because they always play like the watchdogs for all kind of interventions. So I think we should involve the civil society in all our cases. And even when looking at the Brazil's experience, the FPIC that is there in their law as well. So we are also working on that even in our country. So FPIC is very important for all kinds of climate finances related activities. So I think the most important thing is that I think we should prioritize all kinds of like transparency, or we can have a robust mechanisms related with the oversight mechanism. That is very important. So I think all these definitely I think help to strengthen all kind of to stop prohibited practices at all levels.
Thank you. Magaly, do you have a last word, or did you say everything already? No, you said everything? Okay. Then thank you so much. Yeah, I think we saw like from kind of prevention of corruption to, you know, the response of the judiciary. I think for me, just two things that strike was one, the role of open data and new technologies, let's say, or technology at least that can play against also the related impunity or lack of accountability, but also the need for cooperation. I mean, you asked that question, and just to point as well that in a few days, we'll start the meeting of the UN Convention Against Corruption. There is actually a resolution against environmental crime. And I think one of the limits or the gaps are actually around cooperation between countries. So I think that's a key point indeed. Thank you so much to all the panelists, and thank you for your question as well. Thanks to Andrés as well for the translation. There are a few things over there. If you're interested about the topics, I think there are materials from Peru. There is also a report that we just published a couple of days ago about the links between land corruption. So, for example, land grabbing, which is also there is a few cases around there from Peru or Brazil or other countries. And there is also some information about the call for papers that we are issuing on corruption and climate, and we'll be organizing a symposium next year, probably in May, probably at the London School of Economics. So if you're interested, please get some information and send us your concept notes. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for this excellent session. The second plenary, the high-level plenary, has just started in the Dubai Plenary Hall. So please do head over there as soon as you're able. And thank you very much for this insightful session.
Carlos, ¿nos pueden tomar una foto los cuatro?
Gracias. Obrigado. One more. We can share the. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Let's take a picture.
Lo mejor sistema, lo que pagó el paro es la nueva jueza.
Yeah, just whether you see it.
Sorry.
Okay,
Tira mais um.
Thank you so much.
Magaly against a constitution.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is a great, great. Must see more Magaly cases. Because it's not a case like litigation one, but adaptation laws.
Yes.
It was good cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First place where you
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sharing with
Eres libre,
Where are you based in?
Where I
Like,
live,
yeah.
I live in the south part. I live in the coast. We are now we are in the middle of rain, rain.
No, gracias.
Yeah. Now I am. Yeah.
That's the only part I know.
No,
Until now.
the-
But, yeah.
It's our DC.
Yeah.
It's our
But we are going to have a big meeting next. Yeah, might be like to happen because we wanted to probably invite for the, I mean, we'll have all the colleagues from TI working on the climate issue and have some conversation over that. But we'll probably have some events as well. So we'd like to discuss what's going now we are in touch. Thank you so much. Thank you. Maybe I see you in the next days. Yeah, I will try to pass by. Maybe I'll see you. Tomorrow?
जब खत्म होगा पूरा
Is it the event?
Yeah, that's your job.
You send there. I'm leaving on Sunday.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah, but it's more specific for the taste. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same.
Tomorrow. Is it the one with Claudia as well?
One of those that have been moderating as including ministers and different secretaries. I think that would be great for you as well. And even Claudia.
Claudia is on it. No, it's the one with the okay.
She's one of the panelists and she's representing as well.
Yeah, that's the one. You sent, yeah, I remember. Yeah, I will try. 11, you sent it to the group, huh? Yeah. Yeah, well, I was online as well. Yes. This one. I know, yeah, 11, 17. Okay. I'll try, because I think I have another event, but I will try, maybe I try to be at the beginning. Is it B3? Thanks to you, yeah, it was great. Thank you.
Maybe a picture for the other chapters, yeah? Yes. Porque ellas no se pueden inscribir en la.
Ah, we are all just estamos todos, pero no.
Con los demás capítulos. Ya, everyone. A ellas, mira, Andrés, ellos son estudiantes. No, someone will take it.
Yes, please.
You might want to, there's so much space.
Yeah. They don't want to be close to
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's all.
Okay, we're all here, yes.
Both are going to be cross-eyed by it. Let me
Thank
tell you.
you. It's when the room is full, because sometimes they have to prioritize who enter the room. So if the room is full, you won't be able to. The one is like today's party.